Ladies and gentlemen, happy Thursday to you all. Welcome to the Tip-Off, the show that sets the stage for the most important news, daily fantasy plays, and bets on tonight's Win or Go Home NBA game and 4-game MLB slate. I am your host, Kayla Knierim. Welcome. Today we've got Dr. Ben Rasa. Chris Spags is back. Fellas, how's our Thursday?
I'm excited. I am perplexed by whatever this noise is that is sometimes coming through either Kayla's mic or perhaps a ghost of the machine, but it is going to drive me mad over the course of this hour if I don't get some sanity provided by Dr. Ben Ross's prop bet of the day and whatever else we talk about. But I'm excited to be here. I just don't know what it is, and it's really troubling me the more that we go.
It's not me. Tyler muted himself. It was Tyler because it's gone now.
I hope it's Tyler. If it's Tyler, then I'm glad, because like another thing to blame Tyler for, and that's really what we look for here, is somebody else to pass accountability onto.
Not us, Spags. Like I said, before the show, we had to do a little game of clue here, and we've been absolved. It's either Kayla or Tyler. But no, I mean, it's a weird, obviously, we've never had play-in games before. I'm interested to get your takes on what you've been thinking. We're going to talk a lot about the playoffs, but it's kept me entertained. I mean, I'm not going to lie, I didn't like the format, but it's been entertaining. We got obviously a winner go home tonight. All
right. Fans out there, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Friends and fans, all of our fans watching. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for countless hours of content on the NBA, MLB, NHL, PGA, MMA, NASCAR, and every other sport that's in season. Lacey, clearly a fan in the chat. We want to talk to you about our sponsor, No House Advantage, who is taking a different spin on daily fantasy sports by offering player prop contests across the NBA, MLB, NFL, and PGA for cash prizes. This exclusively peer-to-peer fantasy sports platform levels the playing field and makes it easier for you to win real cash compared with your traditional DFS sites. With over 500 player props offerings, No House Advantage is the largest provider of player props in the industry. And the best part is that you will receive a $20 first match deposit bonus with promo code Awesemo. Beat your friends, not the house. Download in the App Store and win big with player props today. We're going to kick things off with bad beats, as we always do. Yesterday saw LeBron and the boys force their way into the playoffs, and there are MLB games as well as the PGA Championship going on right now. So, guys, lots going on. How's it going for you? Spags, we're going to start with you today.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit, I wouldn't say tilted about the NBA playoffs so far, but definitely have not found great success these first 2 days, which sucks, because I am a big fan of the play-in game as a concept, and overall, have enjoyed basketball all season long. But I feel like there have been some wrinkles with the rotations that are a little bit unexpected. Some of the guys getting minutes yesterday, Alex Caruso ends up playing minutes over Dennis Schroeder down the home stretch. Definitely not the most expected thing. Just guys also shooting terribly on the Spurs yesterday, where DeMar DeRozan or DeJounte Murray hit one or two more shots. I think Murray was 4 of 17. DeRozan was 5 of 20 something. Like there are a lot of ways for DFS who've gone better for me yesterday. None of them came through. So hopefully the showdown today will get me back on track. But definitely one of those things where if you shoot collectively, your 2 stars shoot 10 for 40 or whatever it was, probably not going to make it to that next round of the play-in.
Oh, we're in the same boat. I said I was excited for these playing games. They have not been treating me well. You know what? Right now we're going to see, obviously the Wizards got a new lease on life, but the Hornets, that was one of the more embarrassing efforts I've ever seen. And it's just kind of we always talk about in the playoffs, defense tends to tighten up and the rotations tighten, but so far I have not been able to crack the code. Now it's been a couple games. I'm not overly concerned really about anything in that realm, but we will see what we have tonight. But the Lakers yesterday was one where obviously live betting came into play. It felt like they were going to make that run in the third. And that was one that I was able to get some exposure to. That helped because the Lakers did not cover in that game, but it did seem that, in that third quarter when the Warriors were so sloppy that, that was the time for them to make the charge. On the golf side, it's early. Course is tough. That is a whole different show. But yeah, the Ocean course is living up to the hype in a lot of ways. It's windy, it's long, very, very difficult for the PGA players today.
Can we really quick talk about the poked eye?
Oh, yeah.
The theatrics LeBron, involved with that were off the charts.
I love LeBron, but man, like he is, I saw your tweet last night about him with the act. It's ridiculous with him, how he likes to milk it. That's for sure. Amazing shot too. Like that was an unreal shot.
Insane. And the fact that he saw 3 goals and hit the right one.
Yeah,
incredible.
I mean, he did look like his eyes were watering enough. I know people want to say he's an acting, and as somebody who did once get an eye injury, I've told this story before on content before, but like I did once get my my cornea torn by somebody jabbing me with their pinky playing the game Slap Cup, where you're like bouncing a ball into a cup, and then I forget how the exact rules of it go. Basically, the person slaps the cup away, hence the name Slap Cup, and that shit sucked. Like my immediately started watering. Like I ended up not being able to see. LeBron wasn't quite there because like when you tear your cornea or your retina or whatever it is, basically like it immediately just goes terribly and everything gets pink like really within seconds. So he wasn't quite there, but a jab in the eye for a professional athlete like LeBron and myself, I feel like I completely get how that could go south.
I know I shouldn't be mean. Poked eyes are very,
the poked eye advocacy groups are going to be all over your ass, Kayla, and I think that's something I'm deeply concerned about for this show.
Yeah, I mean,
all the wait, what's an eye doctor? Ophthalmologist.
Wandering over with
ophthalmologist, yeah.
Or with what Eric's look that he should have had with an eye patch. Can't get the Eric's mentions too early in the show. But.
Maybe it's just because he's this big athlete and you don't expect him to go down like that with a poked eye. Maybe that's the thing. We shouldn't judge people.
He's smart. Like I assumed, and they didn't really bring this up in the broadcast, that he was just trying to draw, because I don't know how it works, Spags. Draymond had a technical. If you have a technical and a flagrant, are you kicked out? Like, does that equal 2 Ts?
No, I think it would have just been the extra shots and then the possession was what that they were looking for. But he would have, I don't think he would have been kicked out unless it was a flagrant 2, which I don't see how they would have said that was intentional, given that he went up flat. But it's just LeBron doing what he does. I don't know, like it hurts. He's going to ham it up 10 times more than that. That's just what he does historically. That's what he's done pretty much every time he's been hurt. So he looks more heroic if he comes through. And whatever way, like him hitting that 3 regardless, hitting a Steph Curry 3 in Steph Curry's face to win the game. Like I feel like that's all you need here. You don't even need that fun eye narrative or the 3 hoops thing.
Are we just going to breeze over the fact that Spags compared himself to LeBron as in the same athlete?
I mean, I did that. I did that ironically, Kayla. That's the thing you and the poked eye advocacy group would never get because they can't see things the way they are.
Well played. All right. We have a new fun segment, Showdown at the DK Corral. Do we have music? Tyler's nope. Shoot. I didn't know. We talked about it briefly before the show. Didn't know if Tyler found music. We wanted to do something fun and Western, but there we go.
Okay, there you go. There's the
Bags always coming in clutch when we need him. All right. Tonight will feature the final play-in game in the NBA's Eastern Conference with the Russell Westbrook-led Wizards at home against the Pacers, with the loser headed home while the winner faces off against the 76ers. It'll also feature some big single-game contests in DFS tonight. So, who looks like the most viable captain on DraftKings and MVP on FanDuel? Ben, we'll start with you.
So yeah, obviously when we have one game now, it's a completely different conversation. It's a completely different mindset of some of the topics that we normally talk about. I think, it's no surprise when you've got a single game and the Wizards are involved. I think the first question is A, how many people are going to use Westbrook at captain? And B, where's the line between being different and being stupid? Because obviously you're going to pay the premium. You're paying the 1.5x for him in that captain role. Is that the way to go? Can you actually almost leverage by using him in the utility spot? That's something we've talked about a lot in the NFL. When someone is so popular, sometimes you can play them and you're almost shorting them if you don't put them in the captain spot. So I think that's really where, looking at this, I guess we could call it a slate. I think that's priority number one, is what do you want to do with Westbrook? And if you don't use him at captain, are you punting it? Are you leveraging against him with another Wizard, whether it's Rui, whether it's Beal, if you think he's okay, to kind of hopefully mitigate Westbrook? The problem with that is that he can do it in so many different ways, and he has absolutely murdered the Pacers all year. He's just crushed them. These games have been out of control, Spags. So that's really where I think you have to start the slate, and that's the obvious, thing that you got to get right if you're looking to really take down a big prize tonight.
It's something that we talked about a lot when we had the late slate sweat and swap show, where we're doing some of those night slates where you had 2 or 3 games, sometimes 4, but for a lot of those days too, we were doing ones where it's just showdowns. And something with captain that Ben was talking about a little bit there, which I think has been something helpful for me in the NFL. And I think it's sort of a similar logic for basketball too. It's not quite the same thing, because in the NFL, you're looking for that correlation play where if you play a wide receiver at your captain spot, you're then going to correlate it with the QB. If you take the QB out of that lineup, you're sort of immediately getting different. So that's sort of the main thing that you can strike there, where really the reason that wide receivers end up winning a lot at captain for shutdowns is because they get all the production, or they can get a lot of the production, can sort of have that outlier game, whereas the QB can come along for the ride on that. But at the end of the day, if a wide receiver has an outlier day, they're going to end up outperforming the QB relative to what a showdown slate looks like. And for the NBA, it's more just not trying to play the highest owned captain. The guy who's going to also be the most expensive, and putting the captain spot, I think, is the one that you normally don't want to play the most. So today, I think you don't want to play Russell Westbrook at captain. It looks like more than a quarter of the field will be on him. There'll be a similar amount of Domantas Sabonis, so I might be less inclined to go that way too. But you got to take your stabs at Bradley Beal at captain, take your stabs at the guys who could sort of get to that 40 to 50 fantasy point upside on the DK captain is what we're talking about here. On FanDuel, you're not getting that premium price tag upgrade where for DraftKings, you're paying to 1.5x. For FanDuel, you're just paying whatever the price is anyway. So on DraftKings, you have to get the captain right. That's also where you can get the ownership product down by taking a single percentage owned captain. So again, Bradley Beal under 10% owned, one spot I would consider. I don't hate the idea of going to Doug McDermott. If Brogdon is playing, he's questionable right now, but I think the assumption would be that he's playing. He's another guy you can get into captain who can get you to 40, 50 fantasy points potentially if the minutes run the right way from him. So I think Westbrook, best play on the board. He's put up unbelievable numbers against Indiana this year, but everybody knows that. And that's sort of the issue, is that construction wise, you're going to benefit just not playing him at captain as much as the field is going to.
Spags, going right back to you. Are there any players who seem likely to be core plays?
So for me, I think Westbrook is still a core play. And I think, as Ben was talking about, playing him at a utility spot instead of captain is something you should probably be doing in more lineups than not. I know our guy, Steve Buzzard, I was going through some of the lineups yesterday in the showdown with the Warriors and the Lakers. That was a big tournament that had a lot of the 150 maxers, and sort of that's a way you could figure out what the strategy is going to be if you are getting that Fantasy Cruncher Pro membership for yourself in the lineup study tab. And Steve Buzzard was approaching it where basically he put 53% Steph in the captain spot, 47% of him in the utility spot. I think that's what I'll do with Westbrook. Well, I'll probably have 15% of him at captain, 85% of him in the utility spot. And you're trying to get different by putting him in that utility. And it wouldn't be crazy to see him be 50% owned as captain, but I think treating him like a core play for everything else is going to be an important part. And I also think for me, Robin Lopez is on the cusp of being a core play. He might be one of those plays that maybe you want to cut ownership by the time we get to lock to see the value, but he's one guy that, to me, I think he or Justin Holiday will be guys who end up in a lot of lineups just because they're sort of the keys to how you normally would want to build.
Yeah, Justin Holiday is a guy that it looks like he's going to be taking on, some quality major minutes here, and he is price-wise pretty appealing. So there's not that many permutations when you're talking about a single game and you're trying to minimize dupes as much as possible. There's a lot of ways to do that. But yeah, I mean, listen, Westbrook, even if he doesn't play well, I didn't think he played particularly well against Boston. He's still the raw points. It's hard to imagine that he's not going to play a major role unless something really ridiculous happens. And if you don't want to play Westbrook, I think you absolutely have to leverage with other people in the Wizards backcourt because, not that you're factoring in like injuries and whatnot, but if Westbrook for some reason has a horrible game, you have to figure that somebody else is going to soak up that usage. So the guy that I think is the most interesting, and I'm going to talk about him a little later in the show, is Rui. The last game, he was in foul trouble on foul trouble on foul. Every time he came on the court, he just instantly got a foul and he was pulled back off. Barely played in that game. Clearly, they're going to be using him a lot more tonight. And I'm just wondering and kind of interested if the recency bias of an island game, when there's only one game, people tend to watch it and they base a lot off the last game. I think probably too much. So people see 17 minutes against Boston. That is irrelevant. That does not tell the tale at all. I expect him to at least get the opportunities tonight. So he's someone I'm looking at in a lot of different builds. I think you could even be aggressive with him as a captain.
Ben, right back to you. Who are the most interesting value players tonight?
Yeah, so again, with one game, it's tough because there's just not that many guys in the rotations and in a must-win game like this. So Holiday is someone that absolutely you're going to look to for salary relief. Spags mentioned, Lopez. It's going to be tough. The Washington bigs in particular, there's several bodies they can throw. There's obviously the foul trouble. They mix up the minutes here and there. You're just going to have to look to that. It really depends on how much you're paying up at captain. If you're taking Westbrook or Sabonis, you're going to need to steal value wherever you can. If you don't do that, you can kind of build a little more balanced and you're not going to be as pressed. You could look to someone like Bertans as well, who was just horrendous against Boston, 0 for 7 from 3. He needs to be better if they're going to win this game at home here. So there are plays. I don't know, Spags, do you see anyone like way down there? I don't personally.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could sort of talk me into some fractional amounts of Chandler Hutchinson, projected to be getting 6 minutes today from Awesemo, and I think at his price tag, his minimum salary, that could open up a construction that people just won't be on very much, with Hutchinson expected to be it looks like 19% owned. Even that feels a little bit lofty. I wouldn't be shocked if that's closer to 10%. Alex Len, I think, is the one pivot where I do like Robin Lopez, but I get the sense that Robin Lopez will pop up a lot in optimizers, and then playing the other way, just hoping that, these are going to be guys who split minutes. Maybe Alex Len runs hot to start the game, doesn't get cramped quite as much by Robin Lopez, stealing minutes as he often does. I do think that Lopez is the one they trust more. Lopez, to me, is the one who sort of grades out as a better matchup against Indiana, just needing somebody to kind of keep tabs on Sabonis and also protect the rim at the same time. But I do think there's a pathway here for Len to get minutes. So I think Len is one pivot you could make. I think the other one, too, would be going a little bit more to Raul Neto instead of Ish Smith. People will see those results from Ish Smith. But as Ben was talking about, some of those minutes did come as sort of the trickle down of not having Rui Hachimura playing his full extension of minutes. So I think Neto getting those minutes instead is one way here that Ish could fail at probably higher ownership than he should have because of that recency bias results. But I think with a lot of the showdowns, obviously we can sort of advocate for plays that are going to be ones that look good in terms of a median projection. But you sort of just need to get a mix of them and just figure out how the lineup construction works, where if you're taking chalk, take one guy's a little bit lower owned. If you're getting some lower owned plays of your captain, if you're decreasing that captain ownership by not playing one of Westbrook or Sabonis, then you can get a little bit less risky with your picks. But it's really all about that overall build. And as we like to say with showdowns, telling a story, really. That's what you're trying to do. And the story for this one should just be throwing shit against the wall and hoping you can find a configuration not everybody else is going to be on.
Exciting times, friends. As we all know, the NBA playoffs are here, which means it's NBA Showdown season. The great news about this is that our NBA Express Pass gives you full access to all of our tools for NBA Showdown and single game, including player projections and ownership projections. Our weekly NBA Express Pass is only $4.95, but when you sign up with promo code PLAYIN, that's play-in, you will get an extra week of NBA Express completely free. That's 2 weeks of NBA Express for just $4.95. This pass will also give you access to lineup builder, ownership rankings, and big board player values for all slates. This is your pass, Awesemo Plus pass for NBA playoff action, so use promo code PLAYIN at checkout today. Spags, can I just say, the man bun is having a day today.
In a good way, because I have to say, it's so long now that it's not like it's weird because I don't grow out the sides. Like, you can't do it the way that girls do, at least that I'm told women do, is like you wrap it around more. So for guys, when it gets too long, like you can't fold it over the same way. So I was Googling, man, I'm doing a little too much. You're going to see some wacky hairstyles here in my ongoing quest to just stand out / maybe slowly deteriorating insanity as we do more shows.
What is the long-term goal for your hair?
I don't know. I know it looks better shorter, and I know I've had, for professional things, Sue probably does look better shorter, but at this point I just want to look more like a star by doing really dumb shit with my hair and hope that it kind of stands out in a meaningful way. So if anybody gets this reference, looking for like a WCW era Chris Jericho hair is really what I'm looking for, making it look as absurdish and I don't know, like vain. I really don't know what the look is here. Kayla, I'm willing to take advice. I feel like if anybody I could trust here would be you. Probably maybe not Ben so much.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think I'm the one to go to with hair. Like, it's a walking disaster over here.
You're giving me like European soccer player vibes with this.
So that's one of the looks I'm going to be trying out, is you'll start seeing on some shows me introducing more headbands to go for the full.
Love it.
But I'm willing to experiment. It's summer now. I feel like I enjoy the backwards hats, but now everybody's onto the backwards hat game. So when you're an innovator in the backwards hat field, sometimes you got to go a different direction and really make aggressively annoying hairstyles for people to latch onto.
Will we ever get to see your hair down? I'm curious what it looks like.
It's down when I flip shows. I mean, you'll see it down for a brief interval when I do the money hat thing on Live Before Lock for NBA coming up in a bit, but that's it. Yeah, it just kind of goes back naturally.
Okay. That's all I had. I like it. You probably have better hair than I do, honestly. My hair is so damaged and half of it's fake. So whatever.
That's the sacrifice you make for being a blonde.
It is. Yeah. Yes, it is. It's a hard price we pay. All right, let's talk NBA round one bets. All the first round playoff matchups are set besides the Sixers versus the winner of Pacers Wizards and the winner of Grizzlies Warriors versus Utah. Which side of these bets would you want to take? We're going to go through these one by one. First up, we've got Lakers minus 150 or Suns plus 130, Ben.
So this is probably the series I think that's getting the most buzz, just because it's the Lakers and everyone knows that they wouldn't be, they wouldn't have been in the playing game. They wouldn't be a 7 seed if they didn't have all the injuries. But they do, and maybe I'm reading too much into it. I want to see what this line does. I think everyone kind of feels like the Suns overachieved and the Lakers are just like they were waiting and now they're going to turn it on I don't know if they can just flip a switch. AD logged heavy minutes. LeBron looked, I mean, he looked good because he's LeBron, but he didn't look vintage LeBron by any stretch. The bench is in shambles. I don't know exactly what they're doing with Drummond, and I respect Booker, CP3, and Ayton. I do think that the Suns, as a dog here, I lean to them, and that may be a hot take-ish a little bit, but I'm not sold that the Lakers really have everything. I don't know if there's enough time for them to get it together. The longer they go, the stronger they're going to get, because the only thing missing from them is just health and chemistry. But the playoffs start pretty damn soon. And last night, they had to do everything to get by a Warriors team that's a solid team, but nothing that I think is too serious. So to me, Phoenix has the advantage. They're at home. I think they give the Lakers all they can handle. And as a dog, I think they do win the series.
Yeah, so I'm actually intrigued by this bet too, and I think part of it to me is it's something we talked about with some of the futures bets on the NBA teams, where the Lakers are a bit overvalued because A, they're the Lakers, B, they're the defending champs, and everybody kind of assumes they're going to have the switch to turn on. And you saw them turn that switch on yesterday, but there were so many things along the way that I think were concerning. The fact that really they couldn't even keep Dennis Schroeder on the floor by the end because he was just getting killed by Steph Curry in every single play. The fact that they didn't really figure out that they had to double team Steph Curry until the end of the game, and they're like, oh yeah, like it seems like you get good results when you make the best guy pass the ball off. They didn't really get to that one until late. And then it took that LeBron kind of miracle three to actually win the game. I think they got luckier yesterday with how it was running too, where there was a point where they looked like they might get blown out. And then they had that sloppy third quarter that Ben mentioned, but the Warriors did. But I really feel like, to me, the Lakers have been overvalued. I think the Suns have been undervalued in the same way. I still think Chris Paul's going to have some mental wilting going up against his pal LeBron. But I think overall, like just as a pure bet, the Suns undervalued here. And it surprises me too that they were like plus 2,000 to win the finals, but only plus 130 here. Like, I think you're getting value taking the Suns for the title to win it all outright. I think they've been a good enough team to justify that. But in the series too, like they have the home court advantage, and maybe people have slept on them a little too much. Plus 130 could be a good bet to take.
Next, we've got Hawks minus 120 or Knicks even, Spags.
So I'm a little surprised the Knicks are the one that's getting a little better odds on their way. I would take them. I think they have an outright or an outside chance of being a team of destiny here, where maybe that might just be I did grow up in New York. I'm not a Knicks fan, but I do grew up around enough of them to know that, seeing them be happy again for a team is a nice thing. And I do like that world. I think the Hawks came out at the end of the year. The Knicks are a gritty team who I do think brings something in terms of just the personality of Tom Thibodeau of the historical Knicks as well. Those mid-90s Knicks that some of us may remember that were just aggressive defensively and got results. You can't be quite that same team now. Do you think the Knicks have some of those components? Julius Randle too, maybe going to get slept on in terms of some of the all-NBA team stuff. Definitely not going to finish in the top 5 MVP, which sucks for him. There's definitely, I think, some narrative here. Them getting to a matchup with the Nets, I think, has a lot of appeal for both the ratings and for everything here. And the Hawks, I think they can go south. So I think taking the Knicks to win this one, I'm very intrigued by.
Tough series. I think it's probably, if you ask me which series is most likely to go 7 games, I would probably say this one. I think it's going to be pretty competitive, kind of a coin flip. I would side with the Knicks. I respect the defense. I respect Tibbs. Both teams really don't have much of anything in terms of experience in the postseason for various reasons. So it's a tough sell there. It's one, though. I think when you anticipate a series going long like this, you don't have to overreact. Like, this is one I may wait 2 games and see what we see. Maybe it's 1-1, maybe it's 2-0, and a team needs to win 4 out of 5, and you can get a really good position, because this wouldn't shock me to see within the 7 games, ebbs and flows to this. So it's a series I'm not going to overreact. It's probably the one I'm least likely to take a position on before the games actually start.
Next, we've got Mavs plus 325 or Clippers minus 450, Ben.
I mean, I'd love to see the Mavericks win. I wanted them to win in the bubble. I don't see it. The Clippers are one of the teams that, seemingly we're just trying to get through the year as healthy as possible and get ready for what, it should be a championship or bust situation. That's what it was last year. They failed. They get another crack at it. I don't think that Luka and the Mavs, they'll have their time. I don't think it's this year. Minus 450, though, Spags, I was a little shocked. I mean, it wasn't like they rolled over this team in the bubble by any stretch. I think the Clippers do get it done, but I mean, it's not like Paul, you mentioned CP3 wilting. Paul George is in a whole nother category of that. Everybody knows that. Obviously, Kawhi will do what he does. I think the Clippers win. If I had to guess, I'd say like Clippers in 5 or 6. So I don't think it'll be relatively super close, but I don't know if I want to lay minus 450 at the same time.
Yeah, I would agree. I wouldn't want to play that much or pay that much to bet on the Clippers in this spot. And then the Mavs line too, kind of surprisingly to me, I think it started a little bit lower. I feel like I mentioned talking about wanting to take them to win the series at plus 275. Now they're up to plus 325. So clearly people are buying in on the other direction, buying in on the Clippers. And I think it is getting to a long enough shot bet. And I agree that it is does feel flimsy that the Mavs could win this, but I just feel like they've played more, more valiantly throughout the year and more with a sense of determination, more kind of improvement throughout the year as well, where the Clippers down the stretch, like you saw some really bad Kawhi games. You saw Paul George throughout the year kind of do what he did. He was very productive on a per minute basis. Great shooter, was as productive as Kawhi, but still for the most part, like when it comes down to crunch time, do you feel that confident in him? And I think the Mavs right now, all it takes is them stealing game one. The odds do get a lot better for them at that point. I think taking them at plus 325 right now, I wouldn't mind doing it, but I also just wouldn't have any confidence taking the Clippers and laying that much money on the line just to get a payout. So for me, I think taking the Mavs is the bet, but I have some concerns here that I'm just wrong and the Clippers are just going to roll through them. And I don't know how that's going to be the case, but it seems like everybody else is believing that might be.
Now we've got the Heat plus 230 or the Bucks minus 280, Spags.
This is when I think you have to take the Bucks minus 280. I know the Heat have historically given the Bucks some trouble, and the Heat too, not having Victor Oladipo in the mix, I think kind of sad for their whatever asset management they gave up there with Kelly Olynyk, not the whole lot that they gave up in that trade necessarily, even though he did play really well down the stretch. But I think the Heat, by not having Oladipo, they sort of know what they have, and I think that's a positive for them, where they can steal it. If you wanted to bet on the Heat, I wouldn't be mad at you. I just don't think, I feel like we've seen the Heat sort of have their upside against Milwaukee in the bubble last year. I think them getting to the finals was sort of, the Heat's last stand or the best stand really with the guys they have. So them this year coming in, the Bucks have improved. I think with Drew Holiday being there, he's ready to shut somebody down defensively and make it really uncomfortable. I think that all really bodes to the Bucks being the pick here, but the odds are heavy enough that I don't know that you want to go there.
Well, I'm going. All right, here we go. So first of all, full disclosure, last year in the bubble, this was probably my worst loss of all of 2020. I was backing the Bucks. I backed them after every game. I was convinced even when they went down 3-0 that they were going to win, even when Giannis was hurt. Spoiler alert, they did not win that series. But if that wasn't bad enough, I tweeted this the other day, the Heat tanked to get the Bucks. They could have been the 4 or 5 and they would have played Atlanta or the Knicks. The Heat held out Jimmy Butler and they did not win that game late to get the 6th seed. And now they are playing Milwaukee again. If Milwaukee can't figure out how to beat this team, I don't know what to say. I think this is going to be one of my bigger bets of the year. I think Milwaukee absolutely rolls over them. You're right. The Heat obviously gave them a lot of trouble. I don't know if that was really indicative of the Heat. I mean, you got to give them credit getting to the finals and whatnot. I really don't see that happening. Maybe it's just a leak that I don't see these teams accurately, but I think the Bucks will be ready. Giannis, Middleton, they will do more than enough. I may look to bet this. You would get really good odds if you bet Bucks and 4, even Bucks and 5. I think that's one way to go if you don't want to lay minus 280. But if you can't beat a team that knocked you out last year, that tanked to get you again, and they're the lower seed, I'm not saying I want to annex the city of Milwaukee, but if we did that as a country after this, I wouldn't be super offended because you have to take care of the Heat here. Milwaukee's going to roll over them. My favorite bet by far of the playoffs.
Wow. Strong words from Milwaukee.
They will clip. Our social team has been doing a great job clipping little tip-off segments. If the Bucks roll over this, make sure to clip it. If the Heat roll over this, there will be other parts of it. We'll go to Spags man bun talk, the hair talk instead. So.
I have to say the one thing with the bad part about the clip, which I know this video itself is probably going to be clipped, or the segment's going to be clipped into its own video, is Ben, you said we're going to annex Milwaukee, and I think you meant that they're going to be seceded from the country because you would be so disappointed in it. And I know for the sticklers out there who care a lot about American geography and its torrid history of acquisitions and departures, I just feel like that might be one that would reflect poorly upon us in that community as well.
I'm a doctor, not a historian, Spags. I leave that to you. I don't know these terms, so.
I'm neither of these things, so we'll just go right on to the next one. We've got Trailblazers minus 115 or Nuggets minus 105, Spags.
I would take the Nuggets here, though. I think this is one where it wouldn't shock me to see the Nuggets drop the first game. And I think Ben's point about earlier, where I sort of view this as binary because we're doing the segment right now, obviously, but the lines are probably going to get better if the Nuggets do drop that first game. And I think there's a good chance of it. I just don't believe that the Trailblazers are going to be good enough to hold off the Nuggets. And I know they are shorthanded. They're supposedly going to be getting Will Barton back, but that's not the biggest addition or change really to me. It's all going to come down to Jokic and Michael Porter Jr. But I do believe a lot in that 1-2 punch. And I think it's one that's going to continue to be good. And I think one where we could see Porter have the playoff year that we had Jamal Murray have in the bubble last year, obviously different positions, but Porter Jr. has been one of the best shooters. There was some stat I saw, which unfortunately I have no credit for and barely any recollection of what it was. But Porter Jr. has been one of the best at contested and uncontested threes, like in the league overall. And for a young player like him, this is kind of the venue where you expect him to step up, take some more usage, take some more off the plate when teams really do sell out to stop Jokic as best they can. I think that's Michael Porter Jr.'s time to shine. And I think the Blazers don't have anybody who's going to meaningfully contend with him. So I think that to me makes me think the Nuggets are a good bet right now, but could be a better bet in a week.
I think that's fair. I'm pretty much in line with that. This is an interesting series. Obviously, Jamal Murray, I don't know if they've felt the full effects of that until the postseason. I think they have enough to get through here. The interesting thing about the Blazers, even when they've been overmatched for the most part, Lillard is good enough to win a game or two on his own. And if you get that early, this is a series that I think you need to hold in your position, no matter what you think. Like if you like the Nuggets, if they drop, that's one I may double down on. If you like the Blazers, certainly you can look for better value. I thought this would be skewed a little more towards Denver's side, but I'm in line. I think that Nuggets will do enough. Porter Jr., obviously, they've got the MVP on the team as well. So, yeah, they'll get it done. Unfortunately for them, I think their ceiling is a little capped with their personnel at this point. I originally thought they had a decent shot to get out of the West. I don't really see that anymore.
Now we all love Michael Porter Jr. Well.
He's turned it around, perhaps because of your loving encouragement. He figured out who he can be as a player, and we're all blessed to be a part of it.
He owes it all to me, that's for sure. All right, last but not least, we've got Celtics plus 800 or the Nets minus 1600, Ben. Wow.
So, yeah, wow, that says it all. I mean, who knows what the Nets, this is not, the Celtics, they need Jaylen Brown and many other pieces that they don't have. I think the bigger question is, do you look to take a position on the Nets to sweep? Do you think they come out crisp, or do they still work into things they've barely played together in full capacity? And obviously, I think to do what they ultimately want to accomplish, it's not going to be as easy as rolling Durant out some days, Harden some days, Kyrie some days. They need everyone functioning at a high level. So the Celtics, it's hard to imagine they make this much of a series, but if you like the Nets to sweep, or even if you think that the series can go long, you could get value in just saying, I think this ends in 6 or 7. I would imagine bets like that are up, and Celtics grabbing more than 2 games or even 2 games would be probably a pretty big shock to the books.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting one because I know our pal Greg Ehrenberg has had some success with the early payout options. And if the Celtics do steal a game here up top, or maybe 2, maybe you do get some better payout options that, can immediately make the bet pay off for you. But I really don't know how you would take the Celtics in good conscience at this wide of a line where I think Jason Tatum's been really good. I think Kemba Walker's going to have a good run here in the playoffs, or at least as good of a run as you could expect Kemba Walker to have. And I think he's been better this year when given the kind of full opportunity of not having Jaylen Brown on the floor. He's going to see that every game. So I think it wouldn't shock me to see the Celtics win 1 or 2 early. So I think placing that bet now and hoping you can get bought out on it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But the Nets are this big of a favorite for a reason. Even if Jason Tatum goes nuts like he did in the play-in game, like it's still going to be tough for him to do that night in, night out, and also keep up with the potential of Kevin Durant, of Kyrie, the full weight of those guys, plus James Harden going off as they can as well. I think it's really tough sledding for the Celtics. So I probably wouldn't bet anything on it, but the Celtics is a long shot bet that maybe you can get a cash out. I think is an okay play.
Good stuff. All right, Ben, really quick. Who's your NBA team? Is it the Bucks?
No, the Jazz. That's why for Jazz Raz DFS. Yeah.
I never knew that. How did I not know that?
No one knows that. It's funny. Yeah, my dog growing up, his name was Jazz. I love the Jazz. Not that I really I would liquidate the franchise for my golfers to make an extra birdie, but if I had to pick a team, I'll certainly be rooting for them in the first round.
As an East Coaster, where did your love for the Jazz come from?
I just love. I like John Stockton. Growing up, if people confused me for John Stockton or Karl Malone, I think most people would call me John Stockton. So I always liked him growing up. They could never get past those Bulls teams. That was I'm the perfect age for those for those teams. So just always like them, like the uniforms. Now that's a whole nother show. That court is insane what they've done with the Jazz logo and whatnot. But
so where does the Raz come in then?
Well, most people call me like Raz or Raza for my last name in life. And then the DFS is, at one point in my life, I was actually good at DFS. So you combine those three things, and that's how you got the name.
I would have liked it more if you were just like Jazz DFS, and you were just like, oh, that's that guy Jazz, like that. I don't know, that'd be a fun name. But there was also like a PC game that I remember playing as a kid called Jazz Jackrabbit, and I feel like I might have an affinity to that. Jazz Chisholm, same thing for the Marlins. Lots of quality Jazzes out there. Jazz from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
When I had my DMs open on Twitter, at least once a month, I would get someone messaging me being like, hey, dude, if you're ever in New Orleans, like, I'd love to go to a jazz bar with you. Like, also a huge fan of music. And I know nothing about music at all. A lot of people think I'm some like jazz connoisseur.
I love jazz music. You should just own that.
Maybe I'll change my, from after I retire the doctor, I'll become a musician.
There might be some cultural appropriation going on there, I feel like. But if you started playing an old-timey blues character on the show, I would be a very happy man.
You're all about that?
A little more in Eric's wheelhouse, I think, with his musical talent and ability to do characters. Like, he'd come in with a fun Nolans accent. But I do think that there's room here for somebody to be the jazz guy. And I think, Ben, if you want to take a career change, get a medical degree. I'm open to it.
I don't know if I can. That's lacking in my Jeopardy knowledge. I'm not good with music stuff. I know nothing about music.
Dr. Jazz DFS. There we go.
Let's combine it all together.
Why not?
Doctors do have a lot of love of jazz because they have so much money to spend on that. Jazz, an expensive man's habit. I feel like the collecting albums and all of that. So maybe there's a way to put it all together somehow. The jazz doctor of DFS.
Ooh, that's smooth. Just like the music. All right, enough of this. Let's head over to the Diamond for biggest bat. Here are some of the top bets and plays on tonight's MLB DFS slate. Which of these top 5 odds getters on OddsShopper do you guys think is the best overall bet to hit a home run tonight? We've got Ronald Acuna plus 300, Matt Olson plus 300, Adam Duvall plus 310, Freddie Freeman plus 330, and Hernandez plus 350 Spags.
I do think for me, it's going to be Teoscar Hernandez in this spot. I talked a lot in the MLB shows recently about people playing in that Toronto park, and they're going to be moving to another nice park for themselves. It's also had a lot of power in the past, that Buffalo one soon. But where they've played in Florida has just been giving up a ton of production. The weather is also looking good again there. And I know Kayla loves to hear about the weather in baseball. It is the most important part of baseball right now, as we're seeing guys like Tyler Mahle get blown up. I know it's much to our producer Tyler's consternation, for a fellow Tyler, I suppose. But going south today, had a tough day with his own launch angle, in addition to the weather heating up, in addition to a matchup of guys who had power and know how to hit. You're going to see these lineups start to have more hitting production over the next few months. And something to just keep in mind when playing MLB DFS, the pitchers get a little bit less reliable and the hitting gets a little more reliable. So going against Nick Pivetta, been fine on the year, but I don't think an actual quality pitcher, Hernandez, can mash the ball here in this spot. So I'd take him.
I'm going to go with one of the Braves guys. I'll say Freddie Freeman. Why not? Braves massive favorite at home here. Minus 210 is on my screen. Over under in the game is 9, so that's pretty reasonable. But I just look at them. Obviously, the books think that most of the production is going to come from the Atlanta side. So you look at him, you look at Acuna Jr. You obviously have options, but I'll try to steal a little. I mean, we talk about this segment a lot where it's always more bunched than I thought. Like, even when Trout was healthy, he would be like 250 or 270, and then one-offs would be 330, 350. You're not getting like 5-1 versus 2-1. So it is small margins. You're probably taking, just straight best available if you think there's value here. But I'll look to the Braves side of the ball. I do think they win pretty comfortably today.
And for biggest arm, which of these top 5 odds getters on OddsShopper do you guys think is the best strikeouts over bet tonight? And is there a good under bet that you like? We've got Velasquez over under 6.5, Alcantara over under 6.5, Crow over under 3.5, Smiley over under 5.5, and Pivetta over under 4.5. Ben.
I'm just going to stick with my theme. Why not? We're just going to go Braves onslaught here. Smiley mows him down while Freddie Freeman is hitting home runs. So again, they're a sizable favorite. He should be in line there. Maybe the Pirates can hit lefties, but I just look at him at home. All these guys, obviously pretty reasonable pedestrian totals. So depending on where the lines move, obviously that's one of the many features of OddsShopper that you can see. Are the books reacting to something? Is there weather that's causing this to be suppressed or whatnot? But looking at these, I will say Drew Smiley can clear this number.
I think for me, it's going to be Vince Velasquez. And for DFS tonight, you are going to be playing a very chalky Vince Velasquez. He's going to be owned, it looks like, by almost 2/3 of the field, because this is one of the worst, I guess, main slates you can call it. It's a 4-game main slate, but still, it's not a great pitching slate. There's nobody here with good strikeout rates for the most part. Vince Velasquez is somebody who does have a decent one on the year. 29% K rate, has had a 27% rate since 2019. So it's been there historically. Issue for him is that he does suck a lot in terms of giving up walks and hits, which is something that can be problematic when you're a strikeout guy, because you're taking a lot of pitches to get those strikeouts, in addition to then walking guys. Like, you're just eating up a lot of pitches in a way that's not good. But it's reflected in the 3.6 innings per game that Velasquez is pitching so far this year. But the hope is that he can survive. I think the spot against the Marlins, playing in Philadelphia, another park that's heating up and going to start playing better. But today only 75 degrees, so that's not the worst temperature to hit in, or to pitch in rather, going against the hitters who also have a 27% K rate on the year. Miami strikes out enough, I think, on this slate. Just taking one guy who actually gets good strikeouts. Like, it's hilarious that Will Crow with 3.5 strikeouts is somehow relevant enough to make this segment, because that's a reflection on how bad the strikeouts are. So if you're taking any prop, at least take one guy who can get strikeouts, and that's Vince Velasquez.
Wonderful. It is now time for one of our favorite segments around here, the Dr. Ben Rasa prop bet of the day. All right, Ben, you are now at 18-6 after the horse named after Taylor Swift, Fearless, finished as poorly as her negotiations to buy back her masters recordings from Scooter Braun. Oh, too soon, Spags. How does it feel to take your first L in a while, Dr. Ben?
Yeah, not great. That horse, yeah, he got a shot. He just lost. And it cost me a really good double on a personal note. Had the second race lined up. Fearless did not get it done, but you know what? We're back to the hardwood tonight, back to NBA, where most of this success has come there. So we'll get it back on track.
All right. Today is a special day, Dr. Ben, one where we have an elimination NBA game and the final day of our Gold Rush promo at awesemo.com/join to give people 25% off any monthly Awesemo Plus membership. That is a massive discount on our ownership projections, player projections, lineup builder, and the premium Slack channel, in addition to our other tools for every single sport in existence. That is NBA, MLB, NHL, PGA, MMA, NASCAR. It's all right there with the promo code Gold Rush. And with your guidance, Dr. Ben, you can help these people take advantage of that promo code Gold Rush by giving them a winning prop bet. So help these people and our company out and give us the Dr. Ben Rasa prop bet of the day. That was the smoothest and most organic read one has ever done.
Yeah, that was pretty easy. Not that, Spags.
All credit
toned
to
it down.
Spags.
I appreciate that. With one game, obviously you have to be careful because you don't want to force it with guys. And someone like Westbrook, it's very polarizing when you see his numbers. I went to, the strategy that I talked about a little on Showdown. I'm going to take it all the way and use it in the betting markets as well. I think that Rui Hachimura is posed for a big game here against the Indiana front court. Now, of course, he needs to stay out of foul trouble. If he gets in foul trouble again, we could see a repeat of the game against Boston where he only played 17 minutes. But I think the books have undervalued his points prop here is only 13.5. And it's basically a toss-up, minus 118 to the over. And I look at, this is a guy who's been very, very efficient. He's been clearing this mark. He's been pushing 30 minutes, and this is an all-in situation for the Wizards. So pending he stays out of foul trouble, he's going to be on the court a lot. I worry a little about Sabonis on the other side in terms of, having to defend him at times and whatnot, but this has been a team that's been up and down. Both these teams play extremely fast. They just played not that long ago, and it was 154 to 141. I don't even care about overtime. These numbers have been extreme, and Rui was great in that game, had 27 points. I think this is a good matchup for him, but the number I do think is slightly influenced by what we saw in the first playing game, and he only played 17 minutes. He was 4 for 5 from the field. Obviously, if he got 30 minutes in that game, he would have cleared this prop, in my opinion, pretty comfortably. So for minus 118, I think that Rui can stay out of foul trouble, will stay out of foul trouble, and he'll push over this prop for us.
Yeah, I would say I have Rui projected at 14.2 real life points today, and that means he's getting under that 14.2 half time, getting over at the other half time. But I think that's still enough of a margin here, plus the matchup here at 237 combined total in the game, as Ben was talking about. Just a lot of scoring should be going around. So I think in terms of props, is a pretty solid one to go to, and I would personally like to see it succeed because Rui did not pay off last time. But I agree, going back Rui's way today, whether it be for those showdowns, whether it be for prop bets, I think it's a good move to make because people will look at that box score and be like, oh, they must have played him off the court, or they didn't want to play, and not realize like, hey, I just had foul trouble and bad results overall.
Yeah. And truly, like if you want to just go to I did this right before the show. He picked up 2 fouls. He sat for the rest of the first. He came in, he picked up another foul. He sat for the rest of the second. He literally 30 seconds into the third picked up a 4th foul. And there was no rhythm. I mean, this is something, not to go on a tangent, but like I think there's a lot of debate about Brogdon tonight running in these like 4 or 5 minute spurts because of his injury. It's very hard to get a rhythm in a game when you're constantly being nagged out because of, foul trouble in this circumstance. So I think that if Rui can get into, a long stretch where he's on the court for 8-10 minutes at a time, he's going to be very effective tonight.
Good stuff, Dr. Ben. Best of luck. We'll see how you did tomorrow.
Yeah, this is true. Thursdays are always more important than Fridays. I have to face the music tomorrow if Rui doesn't get it done. But you know what?
If we don't hit the gold rush marks either, Ben, now that's on you too, because people can't afford to pay for the gold rush unless this
walls are closing in. Oh boy.
No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure, seriously. But we're gonna be all right. We'll get it done.
That we will. All right. It is now time to go back to the NBA for No House Advantages, prop or not. Here are some of No House Advantages props of the day for key players. Fellas, do we like the over or under on them? And how many points would you assign? First up, we've got Justin Holiday over under 10.5 points plus assists. Spags.
This is one that looks like one of the best bets on the board according to Awesemo today. It has him at a 76% chance of hitting the over. And I think that really is going to be about as good of an inefficient line as you're going to find. As we've talked about in some of these shows recently, the rotations are going to get sort of constricted in the playoffs, especially in games like this one, where maybe in game 1 of a 7-game series, it's not quite the case. You're willing to pull some starters, try the bench guys out, see what you're getting in different groupings. But in a do or die game like the one is going to be today, you're going to rely on the guys who've gotten you there, the guys who have been reliable veteran hands. And there's really nobody who fits that theme more than Justin Holiday, and a spot where there is also still no Karis LeVert. You're going to see Holiday and Doug McDermott be on the floor getting a shot at earning more minutes and likely to play a lot more minutes they normally would. So I think the line doesn't really reflect where that should be. Awesemo's odds of it hitting also reflect where it should be. I think this is one of the better bets on the board today at No House Advantage. So to me, might be a 9-pointer on the card that I'd put on there.
Yeah, it's all about the minutes. And Justin Holiday is going to just be on the court enough that even if he's not super efficient, even if he's not super active, he should clear a total like this just by being moderately involved. And you look at the dynamic of the Pacers, I don't think that they can push Brogdon. He's going to play more than 21 minutes because they're up by like 90 points against the Hornets. But I don't think they can push him major minutes. Holiday's going to have a serious role here. So when you look at the situation, it's a clear over. Obviously, there's always some debate about, where does it fit in your No House Advantage card? But I'm with Spags. This is towards the top.
Next, we've got Russell Westbrook over under 13.5 assists. Ben.
So this is a tricky one. Right now, our projections, Alex is going to the under, and it was on. He liked the under a lot last game, and Westbrook was really quiet. When I think about Westbrook, it's always like, well, how could he not? He has 7 in the first quarter, and then he has like another 10. Seemingly every time. But I do think this is a situation with Indiana in particular. They're going to have to change what they've been doing. It obviously hasn't been working against Westbrook. He's had insane games. In the last game, he had 14 points, 24 assists, and 21 rebounds against the same team. I do think that they're going to try to limit it. And with Beal being, I'm not going to say he's a question mark because he's obviously going to be out there, but how effective is he? Assists are the type of thing, you can't force them. They have to make the shots. So if Bertans and Beal and these guys don't cooperate, it is going to hurt Westbrook. And we saw that in the last game against Boston. I will go with the man himself and lean to the under, but I don't think this is towards the top of the card just because Westbrook is so explosive.
Yeah, I would agree here. I think this is going to be one spot, and it's kind of conflicting because I do think if there were a larger casual player amount here or pool on No House Advantage, I would think that taking the under is a great move. I do think a lot of people on there may be using tools similar to Awesemo's, or at least a good enough amount that the under here, I think is definitely going to be the spot for the median projection. But we know Russell Westbrook will be playing unlimited minutes today. We also know there's going to be a lot of opportunity, even though there are contingencies on it. As Ben was talking about, these guys have to hit the shots. They still have to be in position to actually, be getting an assist for the play instead of just whatever to be credited as. But it's a home game too, so you want to give a little bit of an edge to just Russell Westbrook being over credited. That is something to keep in mind vaguely as well. I think to me, I would go the over for the most part in lineups where I felt like I was being very consistent with the Awesemo projections otherwise. But I do think if you're going, a little bit different some of the other spots, taking some risky 50-50 propositions in your card otherwise. And as somebody pointed out in the chat, I think it was Adam pointed out in the chat, it is only 6 props today because it's a single game format. I know House Advantage, so keep that in mind too. I think think to me, if you are having mostly a little bit of divergence on the field elsewhere, then you can take the under. And it does seem like, according to Awesemo, 76% chance of hitting, one of the better bets on the board.
And lastly, we've got Domantas Sabonis over under 29.5 points plus assists. Spags.
This is one that I think seems a little more close to Awesemo. I think had it as a 60% chance hitting the over. This is one I have a lot more confidence in hitting the over. You're getting no LeVert. You're still getting some sort of injury to Malcolm Brogdon out there that I think does make it tight. I also find it very hard to believe that the Wizards don't keep this one competitive, as we saw the Hornets not do last time out. So really, all of that leads to me thinking Domantas Sabonis is one of the best plays on the day for DFS, as well as for no house advantage today. So I would take the over here on really any of his props. But I think to me, it's still probably not a 6-pointer or a 5-pointer, but I think a 4-pointer teetering on a 5-pointer is where I'm feeling this one for Domantas Sabonis in terms of my confidence level.
Yeah, I mean, it was ridiculous that Sabonis was absolutely terrible in the first half, and he still absolutely got there because of the Hornets just being inept. But you just look, without LeVert, his ability he's got a lot of Westbrook in him. He's doing everything. He's just able to contribute in so many categories. So I look at this, I'm right in line. And as you pointed out, it's a little different format on No House Advantage, but again, this one is going to be towards the top. He's going to be busy. He's going to take volume in terms of shots, fast-paced games. He'll be distributing as well. He's going to clear this prop.
All right. And as always, friends, don't forget to play on No House Advantage, our sponsor, who is taking a different spin on daily fantasy sports by offering player prop contests across the NBA, MLB, NFL, and PGA for cash prizes. This exclusively peer-to-peer fantasy sports platform levels the playing field and makes it easier for you to win real cash compared with your traditional DFS sites. The best part is you can join for free today. Just download the No House Advantage app and use promo code Awesemo to receive a deposit bonus of up to $20 for new signups. Be your friends, not the house. Win big with player props today. It is now time for Good Dog, Bad Dog. Tyler's on it. In real life, there is no such thing as a bad dog. In betting and DFS, there are a lot of underdogs who may have no chance in their game. So who's a good dog to target and who's a bad one? Ben, we're going to start with your good dog.
Well, it'd be interesting if we just stick to the NBA because there's only one game. But for my good dog, I'm going to the ice. Florida Panthers tonight, down 2-0 in their series against the Lightning. They have to have the game. Been a really physical series. They should have won game one. Just a wild game, strings of goals back to back to back to back. But that's neither here nor there. They're a slight dog here. I see upwards of plus 120. I think the Panthers get this one. They have to do this to make it a series. Even though they are in Tampa tonight, I'll say they can chip away to cut closer to leveling the series tonight. So I'll take the Panthers on the ice in hockey tonight.
I think Indiana's an interesting good dog. The one I feel like you're not getting a whole lot here with only a 3-point spread. And I also honestly just feel like it wouldn't be shocking to see Washington handle them. Indiana's playing the best they can with their tumult with their coach, with some of the injuries they've been facing down, losing LeVert. Like a lot of things have been going bad for Indiana where it feels like the wheels could fall off today, and that wouldn't be the most surprising. So they won't get my good dog cosign here, but I'll take Boston as the good dog going against Steven Matz, who I think has been actually a pretty good pitcher on the year, but still a guy that I think is probably worse than what he's put out there so far. Talked about the park for Toronto being one that plays a little bit better, a little bit hotter than everywhere else you're going to see today. All that leads me to believe that Boston can win a high scoring game today. So I think they would be my good dog.
Spags, tell us about your bad dog.
Bad dog for the day, I think, is going to be Miami for me, going against Philadelphia also in baseball. I feel like this spot for Miami, I do think Vince Velasquez, as long as he doesn't walk a lot of guys, which is sort of a risk, I think he can get pretty good results today. So again, if I'm not going to get a lot of Vince Velasquez or as much as the field will in DFS, I think there's some ways you can sort of be tied to his success if that is a way you're going. And then if it doesn't work out in DFS, it'll pan out better. So I think taking a hedge here, taking Miami to cover and win this one outright against Philadelphia seems like an interesting move.
So I'm going to go to the heart. That's why I didn't choose, the basketball game first. The Pacers, can they win this game? Absolutely. But I trust the Wizards. They are at home here. And I just think that Russ and Beal, they need to be better. And I think they show a lot more emotion tonight. They were kind of lifeless against Boston. I was really surprised how they came out in that game. I think you see a better effort all around from Washington. And this is one, I don't want to say it catches up with the Pacers, but I just think there's just been so many things that have broke against them, whether it's injuries, obviously LeVert and the protocol and whatnot. I don't think they're able to get it done tonight. So I will say that the Wizards make the playoffs and cover the 4 points.
I like it. All right. Before we get to make or break, Ben, really quick, I'm sure we'll hit on this tomorrow too, but PGA Championship, what are your early observations?
I mean, the easiest observation of the guys that I picked seem to not like this course. But no, I mean, it's one of those situations that in a course like this, you have to hit the fairways. The wind can change on the fly. Some of these holes that are like 600 yards, they play like they're 500 yards. And some of the holes that are 400 yards play like they're 500 yards the other way, depending on the direction of the wind. So there's going to be some good live betting opportunities. That's something tomorrow, if we have some time on the show, this is a long tournament. The weekend, a lot of things are going to change. So don't panic just yet. A lot can happen in PGA on a course like this. And that opens up some value in the betting markets.
Wait, Ben, are we going to be able to squeeze in PGA coverage tomorrow amidst all of our corner-to-corner Champions League coverage that we're going to be offering?
If we have time.
Champions League, it is, as I'm sure you're both aware, we are down to 8 teams in the lacrosse tournament for college. We got some big games Saturday. Georgetown is going to beat Virginia. You heard it here first and last because no one else cares. There are some big-time games there. So tomorrow is going to be an epic tip-off show. We are going to have segments that you did not even know existed. Yeah, maybe we'll get some trivia. We'll do World Capital. We're going to do all sorts of things tomorrow.
The Kayla Knierim spelling bee, finally.
Look at
No, absolutely not. That is not happening. I refuse.
You can't spell? I can't spell
it happened one time.
Oh, one time, yeah, famous last word.
One time I mispronounced a word that I had never seen spelled before, and they're never going to let me forget it.
I did accidentally misspell the Gold Rush promo today when just deciding to improv and say it out loud because my brain just wasn't there. So I spelled Gold Rush with an extra O in Rush. And I was like, I don't know. I think I was thinking Rosh Hashanah as we talked about earlier this morning. It's just part of my celebration of our friends in Jewish cultures. And that must have been what it is.
Okay, Spags.
Terrible.
Quickly going back to the PGA Championship, does that annoy players when they pick a golf course like on a windy island?
So some players seem to not. I don't know. It's just like you want to go back to the LeBron episode. There are guys, they hit the ball, it goes 60 yards into the water, and then they blame the wind. Like, I don't know what you think who you're fooling, buddy. Like, obviously that wasn't the wind. So I'm sure there's some unlucky breaks when there's a gust and your ball is in the air, but I think a lot of players use it to blame the course when it's just, they're not playing the best golf out there.
I see. That makes sense. All right, make or break. Which player or game currently looks like a make or break spot to you on tonight's Slate Spags?
Well, I think this Pacers game is going to be crucial for my NBA night.
How'd you come up with that one?
That's the one. I think as a play, the spot that will be make or break for me will be just going in a different direction with Westbrook, playing him less at captain, trying to get him in utility spots, and hope that's what makes me different, even though everybody else will also realize that and try to do the same thing. But that's how showdowns go. So I look forward to hopefully chopping up some form of first place with 500 of my best friends.
Yeah, shockingly, I'm targeting that same game in the NBA. But no, honestly, the most important thing for me tonight, I know we didn't devote time to it, but I really do have a bet on the Panthers tonight. I need them to win that game, and I do think they're going to be able to do it. I love hockey, my favorite sport to watch. A lot of people don't know that, don't know a ton about it, don't play DFS. But if I could go to one game live, it would absolutely be hockey. It is by far the best live sport. This
has been the Ben Rasa Fun Fact Day here on the show.
A lot of weird quirks over here.
I have a confession. I am rooting for the Lightning because Pat Maroon is one of my friends and his lovely wife is literally one of my best friends. So sorry, Ben, but go Lightning.
The Lightning are awesome. They're probably going to win. So, but they're not going to win tonight, and I can live with that.
All right. Well, now it's time for Fade of the Day. Is there one game, player, or team that you anticipate you'll have a lot less interest in than the rest of the public, Dr. Rasa?
Well, yeah, I mean, I can't really fade the game, obviously, but no, I mean, I think it's a situation to wrap up what we're talking about with the NBA that if you're playing Showdown tonight, I know it feels uncomfortable, but you probably have to endure trying to go different at captain. If you're truly trying to take down a big prize, you're going to be boxed out with Westbrook. And even with Sabonis, it's very difficult to build unless you see something that most other people don't. And with the NBA, rarely does that happen because there's just, it's a very finite amount of rotational minutes and whatnot. So try to mix it up. And as Spags said, tell the story. I know that's somewhat cheesy in some regard, but that is the way to do it with Showdown. Work backwards. If you think, the Wizards win the game comfortably, how do they do that? And then react accordingly.
Yeah, I would say that that would be how I'm viewing that as well. I think my fade overall to ownership for the Showdown, I think would be Doug McDermott, I think, just trying to get rid of some of that recency bias. He was so hot last game, and that's a funny sentence to say talking about a guy's athletic performance, but he was so hot last game, and I think you can't argue that. Just ended up scoring 20 points, 20 real life points in the first quarter, knocked down all the threes, and I think people will certainly remember that. Justin Holiday is going to be appropriately owned according to the ownership projections, but I still think wouldn't shock me to see Doug McDermott be a little bit over-owned, Justin Holiday be a little bit under-owned, just because of that recency bias. So to me, just getting less McDermott, more Justin Holiday is the move that hopefully will be profitable today.
Fabulous. Look at that. Right on the dot. Well done, guys. Oh my gosh. What a fun show this was. Team effort. Woo, go team. Thank you to Spags, Dr. Rasa. They will be both back with me tomorrow on the tip-off. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe because the NBA Deeper Dive, MLB, and NBA Live Before Lock are all coming your way next. So check those out. And I'm Kayla Knierim once again. We'll see you guys tomorrow here on the tip-off. Have a good one.